Great Depression era parents. Lessons learned growing up in a large and thrifty household. Part 2. Hi, YouTube. My name is Regina. And if you don't know me, I grew up in a household of 14. My parents were born in the Great Depression, and my dad moved over here from Italy and wanted to have a big family. And so they did. I think my mom wanted one too. So, but they had 12 children, and I am the eighth oldest, fifth youngest. And here are some additional lessons I learned growing up in a household where only my dad worked while we were growing up. And here are additional lessons. And I have it written down so that I don't forget, but in no particular order. It's where my eye gravitates to. How to make things last. So my mom and dad, our house had two, 4 bedrooms, 1.5 baths. I don't think I've ever counted before. Yeah, 4 bedrooms, 1.5 bath on an acre of land. And we had a motorcycle track in the backyard. My dad built a house in the backyard. And the things that they had to make last because of other lessons you're going to hear. But the house had a den and a living room. And so the living room, I think the living room is a more formal one, had plastic on the furniture. You heard that right, plastic on the furniture. This is going back to the 70s and 80s, but typically that's what you did to make sure that your furniture or your high-end furniture, quality furniture stayed pristine and new. And the plastic would only come off when company would come over. And so the kids were not allowed in that room, and they tried to make whatever they had last. I don't remember my mom replacing anything in the kitchen, from pots to pans to appliances to even the furniture. The furniture, everything they bought was of quality and it made to last. And I carried that through, and so did a lot of my other siblings today. So for me, I've only just recently did an upgrade to my kitchen. The appliances we had were from when we moved in, and they were old when we moved in. So we moved in 2007, and this year we just remodeled our kitchen, and it is 2025 now, but actually we did it in late 2024. And then I still have my dishes and our silverware and everything we had when we first moved in. So you should try to make things last, including coats and hats. And I have things from many years ago. If you take care of them, they will last, especially if you're buying good quality items. So that was a lesson. The next is style uniform. My mom would wear what was considered house dresses. So the house dresses would have like the buttoned up, or they would have like the push closed. Um, and then my dad, I'm trying to remember the name of the word I'm looking for, but my dad would wear white button up collared shirts and white t-shirts underneath and black slacks. And he wore these around the home. It didn't matter if they were cooking or cleaning or tinkering around in the garage or gardening, that their clothes, if their clothes got dirty or soiled, it wouldn't matter so much. These were the clothes that they wore every day. And so I carry that through today. I have comfy clothes I wear in the house. I tend to wear a lot of black leggings or different colored leggings with some kind of t-shirt over it, and I wear tanks and sweaters. It's typically where I wear what I wear around the house. It's not what I typically wear to work. And so I keep my clothes. It doesn't matter if I get something on them in the kitchen. I don't need to go buy an apron, and they can go in high cycles in the wash, and it's fine. So well before Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg and all the other people that you could think about, people were doing that way back when in the 70s and 80s. The next is you don't need to spend a lot of money to have a lot of fun. So my parents had 2 cars. My mom had a station wagon where she would take us around when, or take some of us around at a time, depending on what we were doing. And my dad had a Volkswagen, and eventually he replaced it with a Fiat, and ultimately with an Alfa Romeo, his dream car. But they couldn't take us all around at the same time. There was just two cars in the household, one for running around town and one for going back and forth into the city because my dad was a construction worker. And so we had a lot of fun and had to have a lot of fun at home or in the neighborhood. So my dad put in a motorcycle track in the backyard, put up a swimming pool. We had swings. He planted all the grape. He planted grapevines, apple, cherry, pear. So a lot of fruit trees around. And then my mom did a lot of the different kind of bushes. So we had the, strawberries, and other times I think we had maybe possibly other, maybe it was raspberries at one point. But so we had a lot of fun in the backyard doing all kinds of things, whether it was riding our big wheels when we were little, or roller skating, or ice skating, or in the pool, or jumping on swings, or raking up leaves and just playing around, or making new rules to games. We just had a lot of fun. Or we would ride our bikes around the neighborhood. But we didn't really have a lot of money because, again, my dad was the only one that worked, and we had a lot of fun. They put in a patio set in the back, and so we would be able to sometimes have meals and drinks outside. My dad would make homemade sangria, and I never saw my parents drunk. But I was, as a little kid, allowed to take a little sip of his homemade sangria. And he used to just buy, I think, some kind of wine and just put fresh fruit in it. So lots of fun growing up, and you didn't need a lot of money. And eventually we did do some things where, like go to the beach or go to the movies or go to the mall. But usually that was just a few of us at a time. And so you just don't need to spend a lot of money to have fun. And so these were some of the lessons learned growing up, including camping in the backyard and going around and gathering light bugs, trying to make pets out of birds that got injured. I mean, we had fun just doing simple kids stuff. And then a little bit was mischievous in a way, running to different neighbors' doorbells, ringing the bells and running away, or daredevils jumping in someone else's pool. We did a lot of fun things, and raspberry picking over the summers, and it was just fun. And so you don't need a lot of money to have a lot of fun. So I just want to drill that in. You just need like a curious mind. And the other thing my mom would do is she would get a whole bunch of books out from the library. My dad would show us how to build and do things. And so my brothers were learning how to tinker, in with the cars and with the bikes. I learned how to change the oil and change the what do you call, chain on my own bike. I learned a lot of different things, as well as cooking and sewing. And my mom taught me how to knit, which I didn't really knit much. Some of my other siblings do. But you can have fun without spending a lot of money. So I just want to drill that in. The next thing we learned is there's always a substitute for everything. And so by this I mean is, if the ice cream man is coming, it doesn't mean you have to run out and go get ice cream. You could go get ice cream in the supermarket, and at the same time you hear the ice cream truck, my mom would pull out ice cream and give us all ice cream. You don't need to go buy cakes and pies. My mom would make these things. Restaurant meals, my mom would make the restaurant meals. And every day, most of my life, I knew that I was going to be eating from home, and or my mom would pack a lunch for us if we were going to go on a field trip, and we would have choices between what we were going to eat for breakfast. And so there's always substitute when you want something, that if you can't go out and buy it, that you could try to make it or prepare it, or just try to enjoy it in your own way. And so for vacations for us could have been just like camping in the backyard, or just going around and enjoying the pool and the local um, beach and lake, which my mom would take us to. So there's that. The next is that dining out should be for special occasions. And this one, although I do dine out now, If it stops to feel special for me and feels ordinary, I refrain from it. But when I was growing up, most of my meals were eaten at home. Every day we would have a specific menu, and my mom would change it up a little bit if it was someone's birthday. There was no junk food really in the house unless it was around Halloween or Easter, and that candy would generally last a while. And what ended up happening though is, let's say you had a communion, you would get a special day out. If you graduated from school or like elementary school, that would be a special day out. So going out to eat was for special occasions and you were made to feel special. And so that still carries through to me today. And when going out stops feeling special or things that I do stop feeling special, I refrain. And while I may not be as frugal as I was when I was starting out trying to be on the path to wealth, I still continue to have frugality practices that are just ingrained to me. The next is the power of the hand me down, the power of sharing. So I learned that what is mine is ours. And my mom was really good at taking care of the things that we did have. And so it wouldn't be uncommon for me to get someone else's coat and I wouldn't even know generally sometimes because she would probably save it for a season or two and then keep the item and then we would get the item. And so the power of the hand me down really works and it still carries on through today. And sometimes it's even with larger ticket items. Like, for instance, in my family, we give away our cars to other family members, whoever needs something. If a piece of furniture is no longer in use, we will offer it out if someone is giving away a couch. And so the power of the hand me down is really, really a frugal practice. It helps you keep things alive. And my parents have passed away many years ago, but the power of the hand me down is some of my siblings still have outside furniture and china and things that were handed down from my parents. So don't be afraid to pass on items to other kids, especially like boots and skates and bikes and toys, those kind of things. And I know a lot of parents do this, but there's nothing wrong, and it's good for the earth to pass items along to other people. And the other thing that my parents did as far as sharing is they shared with other neighbors as well. And so it wasn't uncommon that it didn't mean that everyone in the neighborhood had to buy a specific tool, or if you needed something, it was very common to just go across the street, ask your neighbor if they had. So you borrowed instead of just buying things that you needed sometimes. And then you would give it back when you're done. I still do that today. I don't buy everything that I need, and I can borrow it from a neighbor. So if I need a ladder, I can borrow it. If someone needs something from me, they can do the same. And it ends up working out that you don't have to own everything that you use. So the next thing I learned from my parents is that work starts early and work starts often. From a young kid, my dad would wake us up early in the morning on the weekends, and we would be doing work around the house to ensure that whatever got really messed up or over the week of playing outside, everything would go back in order. And I started earning money young as a kid, and so my parents, like my siblings, did fundraisers. And in the beginning, I was raising money for them. I did a lot of charity work. My parents believed in charity, and so we did March of Dimes every single year and would raise money. We did car washes to raise money, and a lot of the school fundraisers as well. And I was really good at selling candy. And so that ended up becoming a little side business for me and some of my siblings. My mom would take us to a candy distributor and distribution center, and we would pick up candy, and my backpack was full of candy. And eventually, when I hit the seventh grade and it just didn't seem cool anymore to be selling candy, I ended up going and getting a real job. One of my first jobs, and this brings me to my next lesson, is my parents, you know, charged me rent. And so 3/4 of whatever we earned would go to the family and go to feeding all of us and just paying the bills on the household. So as a kid, my first job was in a pizzeria and I worked after school. My mom was pretty much the chauffeur for all of us. She would take us to and from work. She had one arm that was completely sunburned from being outside the car window. And she would just drive us around to our jobs, and I would give her three-quarters of my paycheck. And that taught me how I could save and how I could live on less. I wasn't used to seeing my entire paycheck. It also taught me that I could be an adult. I could afford to pay things on my own. And so it gave me the confidence and the courage to ask for things and to be able to move out with my siblings and know that I could do it. And so another lesson they taught us is, and this one really was more so my dad, because I watched my dad be authoritative. And when he wanted something, he knew how to get what he wanted, including from the kids and even from outside in society. And so, for instance, if you don't ask for what you want, you don't get it. So, you don't get what you don't ask for. And so, if he got pulled over and we were in the car with him and he was driving a little bit too fast, or, coming back from work, and if he got pulled over for something, he'd pull out the Italian card and then say, get off the ticket from with the officer, whatever it was that he was doing. And back then, the speed limits were very low, and they've since raised the speed limit. So it really wasn't right that the limits were very low back then. I think now you know, they're more 65, 70 in certain areas versus 50. The next thing that my parents did is how to build things and how to make things. And I learned a lot from them. I learned how to cook, how to clean, how to iron, how to make things, how to read, how to be inquisitive, and my a lot of my siblings learned things as well. So, like for instance, I learned how to make jewelry. I made the jewelry for all my siblings who were in my wedding party. I made their earrings, their necklaces, their bracelets, and I made my own wedding jewelry as well. And so, we were crafty little kids. And some of those things I don't do as much. I mean, I learned how to paint, and I learned how to tinker with things as well as mechanically with things, and just take things apart and put them back together. But some of my other siblings learned things about working on cars. My other sibling learned a lot about, she, as a career now, she resurfaces furniture, and she's very artistic into, painting. And so she painted one of my pictures that I have on my wall. And um, let's just see other things. My brother built an electric bike before an electric bike was even an electric bike. He, added a motor to a bike so that my younger brother could go around and have a little moped and ride with them with motorcycles. I learned how to ride bikes, how to skate, how to ice skate, and just a lot of things that they learned just how to build and make and do. And so in families that are very thrifty and large, you learn a lot of things from each other and from their other people's interest. My brother even One of my brothers tinkered with our pipes and built a system where our gray water would go out to feed the bushes. And so it was really kind of cool things that we learned how to do things. We learned how to do a lot of things. Of course, my dad was really super handy. I mean, he literally built a house probably the size of like 500 square feet house in the backyard for the kids because he was into construction, and he also built a shed, and then he put decks on the pools. And so my brother ended up working for a decking company and did that while he's through college. So thrifty families teach you how to do a lot of different things. And while I don't knit and sew much now, I still know how to do those kind of things. It's one of those things that you just pick up if you start to do it again. I don't really make jewelry that much anymore right now, but I still have all the materials, and I like learning new things as well. So let me just see what else. Um, so I think that kind of covers a lot of the things I did. Honey, Janine, had a, just, I'm pausing because I'm reading what I wrote. Ask for what you want. Yeah, those are some of the additional things I learned, and I'm sure more will come to me. If you have any questions, or if you grew up with Great Depression era parents, put some things that you learned in the comments. Do see my first video, because one of the first things I shared is a home doesn't have to be much of a home is a want and not a need. And that was definitely something I learned, and it stayed with me. Okay, take care, and I will catch you on the next one.